All right, are we live? So, all right, a good day to our viewers again, and welcome to the third episode of our podcast, Broadcast Bros. I'll be your host, Lance Balita from Japan. You know, just the same guy, just interested in how different intellectuals think, yada yada, stuff like that again. So, now that we have a new episode, we also invite new guests, and this time we have people from different countries around the world for a series of questions and see what these individuals have for us. All right, that's great. We have people like these already. Second episode, it's already professors. Now, third episode, we have people from different countries. So we invited these special guests for our second episodes, and I am thankful for them to extend their time for us. Here we have different professionals from different countries. We have Jay from China and Enrico from India, and last but not least, Reginald from the US. So, all right. So, unfortunately, this is our last episode, and we already have people like these in our podcast. I'm ecstatic to hear more about them. So, before we start, how about you guys tell us more about yourself, and, you know, may I ask, how are you guys doing lately?
So I'll start. Hi, I'm Jay, and I grew up here in China, and I'm currently working here as a businessman. I actually handle one of the leading ice cream brands here in China.
Okay. Yeah.
Hello. Hello, I am Enrico, and I live in the second largest population in the world, India.
Yeah, all right, India. So, Reginald?
Hi, I'm Reginald. I am from the USA. Been doing good lately, even though the schedules are a bit hectic and tight. It is my pleasure to be invited in this podcast.
And it's a big pleasure to me too. Welcome everyone. So that's great to hear. I'm glad you're all doing fine. Let's get this interview started. So as usual for our podcast, just answer these questions honestly and make sure not to take any offense or anything like that. So questions are going to be mostly related about ethics, anonymity, and personal identity in the wired world. And I know you guys are knowledgeable enough for our topic. That's why I picked you guys. So, are you guys ready again?
Yes.
Let's go.
Yes,
Let's go.
All right, let's go. So here we have our first question. So how does your country's national culture affect the observation and the practice of ethics? So let's start with Mr. Enrico.
Thank you. To answer that question, in the knowledge tradition of India, ethics has its origin in its religious and philosophical thinking. From the time immemorial, various religious faiths have flourished here. Every religious and every philosophical system of India has a prominent ethical component. Ethics is the core of all these systems.
That's interesting. All right, that's very interesting. I didn't know that India had like that deep amount of ethics within their systems. How about you, Reginald?
Okay. Knowing that the United States of America is considered as the melting pot of different cultures and nationality, we highly value respect for each other's culture and ethical practices towards everything that we do. More specifically, in corporate setting, we set the environment to be very professional, so that unethical behaviors and cultural discriminations could be eliminated. Also, the ethical values practiced in our country are shaped from varieties of cultural practices from different nationalities present in our country.
All right, that's great. I'm glad that the U.S. highly respects other cultures and all that. Of course. How about you? How is it in your country, Jay?
Okay. The traditional cultural values that influence Chinese people the most are harmony, righteousness, and wisdom. So with this, we are always concerned with how one ought to live, what goes into a worthwhile life, and how to weigh duties towards family versus duties towards strangers.
All right. So it's great to hear that each and every one of you have like this same system on like ethics or culture. How it's the same case here in Japan as well. How we have to be polite with other cultures, and how we have to, you know, weigh our duties for family and stuff like that. And yeah, that's great to hear that like almost the same country, though very different, we have the same ethical system, as I would say. All right, so how about we move on to our next question? So, what are your views on ethical differences of different countries relating to working abroad or businesses working with companies across the globe?
I'll answer first. Indians are one of the most hardworking people in the world. Working hard is definitely not a bad thing. Indians do not believe in solo living unlike some Western countries. They have a sense of responsibility towards their elderly parents, grandparents, and children. In short, Indians have more mouths to feed. Provide their dependents with a better lifestyle. They have a never-ending urge to earn more.
I see. So I'm glad that you have that Indians have a great respect towards their elderly parents as well. Like they have this duty to provide for them as well, which is great as well. I'm sure that's like a common culture for. It's usually a common culture for Asian countries as well. But I know like other countries can handle stuff like these differently as well. Which is why now that we're on this topic, Rajan, I want to hear from you since you're from the US. I want to see what you have to say.
I think ethical differences could be a big factor in working with other countries and nationalities, especially if there are big cultural differences. However, in my opinion, if professionalism is observed and good morals are applied, even with ethical and cultural differences, they could meet somewhere in the middle.
All right, so you get to meet somewhere in the middle and all that. So, that's great that professionalism is usually observed between you guys, and you know it's actually pretty normal for different countries like that to have like professionalism, good morals, and stuff like that. So how about JE? I want to hear about JE.
For Chinese people, there are no issues in working with other people from different countries and different cultures, as long as their own cultural practices and work discipline are respected. This is because they greatly value business relationships more than anything to have a better professional outcome.
Yeah, that's true. Chinese people are like they can be respectable towards like people from other different cultures, and as long as work discipline is usually like respected, they wouldn't mind. They won't usually have like problems. I know like Chinese people are like usually like, how do I say this, like very good entrepreneurs. I know a few of them, and I greatly admire them so much. Like since we're talking about ethical differences here in countries, let's Japan. For us, it's usually like stuff. We're very, very hardworking, and to the point in our culture, it's kind of working us to the death. So, interesting fact. It's kind of hard living here too sometimes. Sometimes they pay you barely minimum wage and stuff like that. But some, you get by it easily. But yeah. So move on to our next topic. So we have two questions about anonymity. So let's go with the third question. So how does the degree of anonymity affect your morals?
For me, the power of anonymity is fascinating. It allows us to separate our online activity into sections completely disconnected from one another. This isn't to say that anonymity on the internet only positively influences people. Anonymity allows for cyberbullying and online harassment. It allows for trolls and scammers and everyone in between to post and message anyone with reckless abandon.
Yeah, that's very interesting to hear. Yeah, though anonymity may provide like its plus sides, especially to introverts as well, or people like you'll be able to freely express anything, whatever you want, because people won't know that it's you. They won't be. You have the choice not to. You have the choice not to let them know that it's you. After all, yeah. So as you mentioned, anonymity poses a lot of problems as well, like scammers, cyberbullying, and stuff. I've dealt with some of those in the past. Dealt with them. Not went through them. I dealt with them. So anyway, Reginald, let's hear from you.
Well, it is very observable in the cyberspace that when the level of anonymity increases, people tend to care less about their actions and behave quite improperly. This is because of the freedom anonymity gives them from the judgment of people from their true identities. For example, internet trolls tend to be more immoral and portray aggressive behaviors in social media platforms because their true identities are hidden.
Yeah, as I said, the lack of people knowing your identity causes you to have this sense of adrenaline that goes up inside you, letting people know, oh, I can freely express whatever I want, whatever the hell I want. I can say anything. But, since we're in podcast, I can't say everything. So, that's unfortunate. So, how about JE? Let's hear from you.
So the case of anonymity here in China is quite different. The system of using real names online, which is considered a way of enhancing oversight of cyberspace and regulating the behavior of netizens, has been gradually established within China's internet governance. Since Chinese people lack freedom of expression of their real views with their real-life social contacts, online anonymity became of greater importance compared with those from the West. And thus it leads to a lot of backlash-like statements against the government or other forms of cyber harassment.
Yeah, so that's great because this is what I'm talking about, the plus side of anonymity as well. It's not always bad because since Chinese are like very, the Chinese government can be kind of limiting of freedom of expression. The power of anonymity allows us to freely express whatever we want. For example, like we're able to say whatever we want about this government we hate or something. I'm not pointing anything. I'm not saying anything about about their government. I'm just saying like, hey, something could be done better this way instead of that. Something like that. So that's great to hear. That you guys have to hear different views and positives and negatives of anonymities. How about we move on to our next question? So, why do people prefer to be anonymous on the internet? So, what do you guys think? How about Enrico? Let's start with Enrico then.
I think people do not always want to be recognized. For example, a person doesn't go by a real name on a certain social media platform because he doesn't want others telling him that they saw his posts or tweets. Another thing is that he wants to keep his information private.
Yeah, that's true. Most yeah for me, for example, I usually like have like a second account that's meant for like my friends, and for my private account is usually where I like post memes and stuff that people should never know about. Anyways, so Reginald, let's hear from you.
Here in the US, most of the citizens that prefer to be anonymous on the internet want their online life to be different and disconnected to their true lives outside the cyberspace. They prefer to use anonymity in order to put separation to their online and offline lives. Also, citizens prefer to be anonymous so that their actions and behaviors in the cyberspace would not affect their lives outside the internet. This gives them the opportunity to freely express themselves without being judged.
Yeah, this what you just said, I very much agree with you, like a lot. So it's true that some people would like to have their online and offline lives separated. So usually like people like me usually act different. Like online, I act someone else. Offline, I act completely different. I also made friends from online as well, and different friends from offline. So, you know, it's a plus. Je.
Okay, being anonymous gives netizens a lot of freedom, especially from a country that is heavily regulated, right? So
Yeah.
this gives people have the chance to finally have a chance to express what they think about a lot of things and share in the public what they have to say without the consequence of revealing their own identity.
Yeah. I really get like how anonymity like greatly benefits for people like you. You get to freely express everything you want, and I know you can. It's a possibility for you to get in trouble if you ever get caught for saying something bad. So, you know, that's why I said anonymity has its plus sides too. So, all right, fifth question. So, the last few questions I think are going to be mostly about your personal identity. So, you know, so let's talk. So you know how I mentioned just now how there are different versions of yourselves. Like for me, I have my online version of myself, and there's an offline version of myself. Yada yada. So question 5. So how different is an individual's online identity from their offline identity?
For me, it really depends on the personality of the person. Some of them is just the same jolly and happy person on both online and offline. Some are shy types of people when offline, while they have so much to say online.
Hey, that's me. All right. So how about you, Reginald?
Uh, okay. There could be huge differences on a person's online identity and their true identity. The cyberspace gives every individual the freedom to create their own online identity, may it be different, similar, or true to their offline identity. Some people use this to their advantage to create a very different identity that they want other people to see.
Yeah, that's true. Like there are, you know, peoples who can create their own identity whatever they want, you know. There are posters, even people like acting like this quote unquote celebrity or something. Hence fake accounts are born, maybe, you know. China, JE.
So, okay, in China, an individual's online identity can be completely the same as their offline identity. or sometimes the polar opposites of it. One may be completely open and showcase their achievements in their real life, or one may be living a completely different identity from their personality from outside.
So I guess all of you have the same general consensus between yourselves about these differences of online and offline versions of them, versions of people. So next question. So how does one's online activity, online no, well, how does one's online identity affects today's youth?
In my opinion, it affects how people communicate with each other, both in the real and wild world. We all know that there are lots of people that have fake identities online. That is why we need to be very cautious on who we talk to in the wild world.
Yeah, that is true. So there are a lot of people taking up fake identities as well. Scammers especially use these fake identities to, grab money from people. They're able to, say, hey, I'm John Bobbers. Hey, I would like to take your credit card number, whatever like that, stuff like that. How about you, Reginald?
One's freedom to choose their online identity helped the youth in the US with their issues on relationships, loneliness, depression, and confidence management. Their online identity gave them the gateway to freely express themselves and choose how they would be known online. However, some youth tend to be more irresponsible and reckless in their behaviors online, knowing that their online identity is different from their true identity. They gain the confidence to do things that are unethical and sometimes immoral.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. When I was going through stuff on my own, I usually go online to kind of express it to my online friends. It's much easier to do it. But in time, I was able to learn how to, socialize with people and stuff like that. Online made it easier for me for offline as well. I've made great friends offline now as well. Yeah, so it's a benefit to it was a huge benefit for people not to know my true identity. They don't know who I am outside, that maybe I'm some kind of loser outside offline. But in online they think, oh, I'm this like cool guy or just energetic guy, whatever. So yeah. How about you, Jay?
Um, with the rise of anime, comics, games, and novel culture in China, one leading animation streaming social media platform, Bilibili, fostered a booming virtual community around animated fictions, which targets most youth in the country. In this digital era, young people became their own flag bearers in shaping their identity, putting less importance from the mostly traditional social structure created in China in the past.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, so the online or digital era, as I might say, has mostly restructured our traditional social structures. I think it mostly applies to everyone. I can't say for every country, but it really did change a lot of people, a lot of stuff as compared to before. So online allows us to connect with one another easily, and compared to before, it's easier to connect with people who are very far apart from the other side of the globe or whatever, or from where you are. That's great. All of you have the same view for this thing. I had a really great time, and unfortunately, that sums up our interview questions for our guests. So that's great. Each of you have provided great and concise answers, and I guess the viewers seem to enjoy it. I'm sure you guys did. So, we got big time guests from different countries, and it's great. It's been an honor to have you in this podcast, and it was not I gained some knowledge to hear from different, different perspectives from different countries as well. So sadly, this is gonna be the last episode, and I'm unpaid. You can pay me, for more episodes in the future. I won't mind, yeah. So let's end this podcast with small takeaways from each guest. Can you guys let us know what you think about our discussion in this podcast?
So thank you for the invitation. The podcast was great from the host, the guests, and the crew itself. Sadly, it's the last episode. So it's great hearing from different intellectuals around the world. This podcast gave me a lot of insights on how ethics and anonymity are handled in different countries.
How about you, Enrico?
The discussion went smoothly. Thank you for inviting me in this podcast. I really enjoyed it.
It's great. Glad you all enjoyed. So, Reginald, how about you?
I'm greatly honored and grateful to be part of this podcast. I learned a lot while sharing information with you guys. It is true that we should still be responsible for our actions in and out of the internet while enjoying our freedom to express and to be anonymous. I also learned in this discussion that even if freedom is given to us, we should still act accordingly and morally. And lastly, I also learned from our host that even if you are not paid, doing good to for something good for the people is great. That's all.
All right. Thanks. So that's great to hear, and I'm glad to have you here as guests. I'm very honored, and I had a lot of fun with you guys. So I've learned a lot from different cultures from all of you guys that, we're us, even with our vast cultural, ethical differences, we're still the same in the deep down. We're still the same people, still the same, nothing different. We're still humans. We're still the broadcast bros. All right. Yeah, we're the broadcast bros. All right. So, and there you have it, your very own broadcast bros podcast. So even so, I pray for everyone again for the pandemic, and I hope everyone has like a good health and provision for in the future and for the upcoming disasters or whatever may come. So thank you so much for watching our podcast. So that's it for our last episode. Thanks, guys.